With the final season of Peaky Blinders officially being released on Netflix, the entire story has come to an end. It's been a long and amazing ride, but many fans have been questioning its historical accuracy for years now. When the first season dropped all the way back in 2013, it immediately found an audience with millions of fans across the world.
That's the machine guns now, and it's them that's in the book.
These are attacking your bookies and taking your money.
The show is a gangster story that follows a family, the Shelbys, whose power reigns above the poor, dark, and gloomy industrialized Birmingham of the 1920s. It's a truly phenomenal series, and everybody should definitely check it out now that it's over. The entire family has a trademark in how they portray their power. That being said, they cut their enemies' faces with razor blades hidden in their distinguished flat caps. The caps are an iconic part of the series and are featured in all of the marketing and trailers. It's gotten to the point where those caps have been called Peaky Blinders hats by many people around the world. It's really cool to see a television show take over a cultural piece of clothing and make it its own.
And so this is definitely inspired off of the Peaky Blinders show, and in Peaky Blinderness.
The charm of the series resides in the fact that despite the characters' despicable behavior, they all somehow have a good side. This is why people love each and every character in the show and adore the series as it's been going on. If you are addicted to Peaky Blinders like many people around the world are, then you probably know that the series has been based on many true events and true characters throughout its time on the air. Stephen Knight, the creator and mastermind behind Peaky Blinders, said that the series has been based on his own personal life. Obviously, he didn't live back in the 1920s, but he based many of the themes on childhood. He said his own father's uncle was actually a Peaky Blinder, but the showrunner explained that the inspiration came from his parents. His parents grew up in the 1920s, so when his mother was just 9 years old, she was a bookie runner. It really was that crazy back then, as even the most normal people had to take bets or engage in illegal activity just to survive. His dad's uncle was in Peaky Blinders, and it really gave him the inspiration he needed for the series going forward. He had heard snapshots of his family's life in the past, of gang fights and guns and their immaculate suits.
Take your time. Hold them up in the air so as they can...
He had this past in his family, and he just had to bring it to television, even if he gave the characters some liberties with history. This is why Stephen Knight was so good at creating this story, and why he's so proud of the product he's made. However, not all of Peaky Blinders is based on real history, as they have taken some liberties over the years. It's not like it's a direct copy of real history, as they had to make up some characters and change a few stories. So let's discuss how much of Peaky Blinders is based on real history. Let's get into it. The first thing to discuss is whether the Shelby family actually existed in real life. Well, the crazy thing is that it's not all black and white here, as there is a lot to talk about and it's a bit hard to distinguish. Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders is actually based upon Thomas Gilbert or even Kevin Mooney, as he changed his name quite a few times throughout his life. Though it's not a direct adaptation of the real person, Thomas Gilbert was one of the most prominent members of the Peaky Blinders gang. Stephen Knight took this man and changed him into Tommy Shelby, creating a character for television. Some of the other most famous Peaky Blinders were Harry Falls, Ernest Haynes, and of course, Harry, Baby-faced Harry. Another way the television series changed the truth from real life a little bit.
I want you all to look at me. Who'll be wearing black for you?
Was that the Peaky Blinders weren't exactly highly organized criminals. They are portrayed in the show as a wholly integrated criminal organization that has total authority over Birmingham. However, in real life, things were much different, as Harry Falls was actually arrested for stealing a bike and put to jail. I don't think you'd catch Tommy Shelby stooping to that level of crime just to steal a bike. It really shows the difference between the show and real life. The other members of the group would only spend a few months in prison.
As advisor and accountant.
And I'm the fucking boss, okay? Right, end of parley. You fixed the race without my permission.
Which is more proof that their criminality wasn't as high a level or even as serious as the series portrays it. In the show, the Shelbys have dodged the noose quite a few times because of how high profile their crimes really were in Birmingham. The real-life Peaky Blinders, on the other hand, were doing petty crimes for little bits of money. Despite not being into true high crime, they were still criminals who mostly engaged in robberies, muggings, fights, and of course, the usual pickpocketing. This is what people assumed the Peaky Blinders show was based upon, but it recently came out in a BBC documentary that they might have been based on somebody else. Though Knight of course took some inspiration from this real-life family, he also looked at various others such as Sam Sheldon and the Sheldon family. These guys were a little different, so let's discuss how the show might have adapted them. The Birmingham Boys, led by Billy Kimber, a different gang, began to pay more attention to the real-life Peaky Blinders. This started a gang war, which eventually led to the death of a police constable by the name of George Snipe. This changed the course of the gang going forward and proved to be a turning point in the rise and expansion of street gangs in Birmingham. Charles Rafter, who was given the mission to clean the streets of Birmingham and get rid of any gangs, could easily pass as a fictional version of Rafter. This is something that Stephen Knight has never actually officially confirmed, but the two similarities between the men are very obvious to the trained eye. Rafter did quite a good job in real life as he turned out to be super successful around 1910 when the Peaky Blinders had mostly disappeared. But that wasn't the end of the Peaky Boys, as they had just moved on to another gang. Billy Kimber couldn't move on from his gangster lifestyle and had the opportunity to create his own gang and therefore expand his power. This is very similar to what Tommy Shelby did in the series, as his unwavering ambition drove him all the way to London. This is exactly what Billy Kimber had done in real life, as he might have started out as a Peaky Blinder, but his rise to power was very similar to Tommy Shelby's in the series. It's really quite interesting how Stephen Knight completely changed a real-life story, but it eventually lined up with his fictional character. Though Kimber was quite different in real life from how Knight wrote Shelby, the two became very similar towards the end of their stories. So there you have it. Peaky Blinders was definitely based on real-life history, but not as much as you might think. The men these characters are based upon would definitely be real and had real crime in Birmingham and across London, but they weren't as deep into it as Tommy Shelby is in the show. There are quite a few differences between the real-life men and the characters, but at the end of the day, they are definitely based on real history. What do you think about all of this? Please let us know in the comments section below. We hope you enjoyed today's video.